And if you actually need to do a rotation, we're gonna go invert. Oh no! I thought I would have a chance at that, but the damaged plane couldn't take the G's. Is that WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive? Yeah, it is, and he's taking a look at the Me262, which is based on the real-life aircraft called the Me262. So we have 5 versions available. We're going to be starting off with this one because this is the best representation of the aircraft to me. Because this variant is the closest to the original design that was produced during World War II. This particular aircraft is based off of one you can find in a museum in Ohio. So before we take this thing up into the air, I wanted to give you guys a quick look at the outside. Now all the controls are listed in the top right corner of the screen, but we're going to be going over them audibly as well. So the first thing we're going to want to do is get up to speed. To do that, we're going to want to increase the throttle. And to do that, we hit T. Now the amount of throttle we're using is listed down here on the tachometer. So as we hit T, you'll see that number increase. And once you let go of T, it holds that number. So we're at 100% throttle, so we just let go, and it holds 100% throttle. Now this thing needs a little bit to get up to speed. We need to be going about 100 miles per hour before we can actually get up into the air. Now if we had any problems right here where the plane started to go to one side or the other, which it actually is doing, we could use F and H to control the rudder. So we could F to do the rudder to the left, just try to straighten it out a little bit, and then if we wanted to go the opposite way, we hit H, which I actually don't want to do, so hit F again. And now we're just kind of drifting the plane on the ground, which is dumb but kind of fun to watch. Look at this drifting. Okay, enough of that. We're up to speed. Let's get this thing into the air. To do that, we're just going to hit the down arrow key, and it sounds weird. You hit down to go up, but it feels right, because if you're in a real plane and you got a joystick, you pull the joystick towards you, you go up. It's similar to that. You hit the arrow closer to you, you go up. You hit the arrow farther from you, you go down. So if you want to go down, we hit the up arrow key, and you see we dive, but I actually don't want to dive. I want to go up and not crash. Whew. That was a little bit close. So in addition to that, we can also control the ailerons, and to do that, we just use the left and right arrow keys. So we're going to go and get up a little bit higher, and then left and right arrow keys activate. That is what happens when you go right. This is what happens when you go left. Now you'll notice the plane keeps wanting to dive a little bit. And that's just the way the plane is. It just always wants to dive a little bit. So how do you fix that? Well, there's actually a really easy way to do it. You just change the trim. The trim basically sets the default angle for the parts. So you hit end to cycle through the different things you can modify. You have elevator, aileron, and rudder. You want to actually change the elevators here. And then we're going to just increase the elevator's trim by hitting page up until we get it to maybe about 5%. You notice right here the plane's not diving anymore. It's staying a little level, maybe pulling a little bit up. But that's okay. I just don't want it to have the risk of crashing if I take my hands off the controls for 5 seconds. And the way it works is if I do something with the elevator like this, it just centers back up to 5% every time. And you could do that for every part. So we could have the aileron set to 5%, and then we could have the rudder set to 5%, and then the plane is flying like it's a drunk, broken disaster that's going to eventually crash because every time it levels out, it's just like, wait, I'm not level anymore. And let's go ahead and just let it crash. We're just going to let the plane do what it do, and it should be hitting the ground shortly. Pretty harsh impact, actually. I expected it to be more of a scraping collision. That was just a straight-on impact that well, basically blew up the plane. We have a few parts here and there, but it just exploded into bits. That's the main cockpit that's bouncing around. Anybody in there completely obliterated, so we'll just go ahead and reset this thing. And let's get this thing back into the air so I can show you the last control, which I have yet to mention, which is called the toggle flaps button. I didn't show it on the first flight because there's no practical use for it, because it's mostly used for slowing down the plane for landing, and if you're crashing into the ground, you don't really need to slow the plane down, do you? So we're going to get this thing up to 100 miles per hour again, and then we'll go ahead and pull up, and I think what we'll do is we'll run the length of the runway, and then we'll do a quick 180, and then we'll try to land it on the runway using the toggle flaps button. So up into the air we go. And once you're in the air, if you wanted to, you can hit the B key to bring the gear up into the plane. But for some reason, I really like watching planes fly with the gear open, and we can see the wheels. So we're going to fly in the air most of the time with the gears out. And plus for this one, we're going to be landing again in like 30 seconds anyway, so it just seems like kind of a waste to do that. So we ran the length of the runway, so we're going to kill off some of the throttle right here. And we're going to do a quick 180 movement, so I'm going to kind of level out the plane and then go. Might have killed off too much throttle. I got to keep myself above the ground as I do this maneuver. Okay, more throttle, more throttle. Alright, that worked. That worked. Then we got to get above the runway. So I'm going to try to use the rudder and then a little bit of steering like this as well. Alright, we're above the runway. Kill off the throttle and toggle flaps. And you can see all those flaps just going down, trying to slow this thing down. We're actually going really fast for a landing right here. I don't know how this is going to go. We might run out of runway, to be honest, but we'll see what happens. So I have no throttle right here. I'm just kind of letting it float to the ground. And not too bad. Kind of a little bit of bounce right there. It was not what you would call a smooth landing, but I think we have a functional plane still. Like, we're landed, so go ahead and bring the throttle back up and see if we can pop it back into the air again or not. We don't have much runway, though. We got to get up to 100 miles per hour with this itty-bitty amount of runway, and I think the way these planes work is you got to, like, get it 100% throttle and then wait for a bit before it actually starts giving it the beans. It's like, wait, and then it goes, because, yeah, it's at 100% throttle, but it's not at 100% of its RPM, because if you notice at the tachometer, it says just 1. But if we let up on the throttle, it says 0% throttle, but it still has a lot of tack going to it. And if we hit 100%, well, we're not at the max RPM yet. We gotta wait for it. And this is just a real representation of the type of engine this uses, because this was a really interesting plane, and I'll talk about that in a second, but I see a good idea of where to crash. So get this slow-mo going. A little bit early, but I'm using the keyboard only, which is kind of hard to do the slow-mo, unfortunately. So here we go, flying straight into the ground, and hopefully we'll hit the fence afterwards. 16 times slow-mo. How about a cool camera angle for this one? Boom! Every part you can see just how nicely they separate, and then the fence is going to catch them so they don't fly too far away, right? Maybe? Oh, it is actually going to work for some of them. Looks like the tip of the plane, the nose cone, maybe one of the wheels. Yep, one of the wheels. That one's going to go over, it looks like. No, it got caught too. That's cool. It actually worked. The fence kept everything nice and together so you can really look at the debris. Actually, all of it stayed in here. And you see a fireball of doom bouncing through the air. That is one of the wings. Where is the cockpit in this mess? There it is. Also on fire. Okay, well, let's respawn this thing. So what makes the Me262 so special? It was the first operational jet-powered fighter aircraft. And I do love watching the jets as they slowly change color as the RPMs go up and up and up, and then they get that bright blue, and you know the plane is ready to take off as it sucks in so much air into these jets. And then up we go into the air, and we're going to do a quick crash right here. Just a real quick one. It actually might be fun to do is try to just bounce it off the ground a little bit, see if it can take it. It actually can pretty well. Look at this. Boing! Here we go. Boing! I can't believe it's doing so well with the boing, boing, boing. Alright, we lost our front wheel, but we're still left. Whoop! We popped it in the air a little bit. Boing! Oh no! Fuel tank ruptured! My plane is on fire! My plane is on fire! Does it leave like a cool fire trail? Oh yes, it does. That looks so dramatic. Like the plane's on fire. It's just like, no! I don't want to crash. It's gonna crash anyways. I love watching the fire trail. That looks so cool. And I actually noticed, you can tell like the engine on the left is damaged because the plane is pulling hard to the left because all the thrust is coming from the right. So it's just the left side doesn't have the thrust. We don't have enough thrust to really get into the air, but what I want to do is directly slam into the fence this time. Nice angling right here. Gonna go straight into that fence. We'll even do 8 times slow-mo on it. See the parts flying all over the place. And then we'll go ahead and do full speed. I like how it says Jet L broken. It gives you specific parts that break. Instead of just saying engine broken, it says no, Jet L is broken. So let's reset this thing and then get my favorite version of the Me262, which is the A62 Swift. It says, modernized and refitted, the A62 Swift is armed with deadly guided missiles that relentlessly seek out their targets. It's like, well, how much seeking do they actually do? A lot. But before I demonstrate the tracking capabilities, let me demonstrate the destructive capabilities. So we're going to get a D35 Beast up here, which is a big heavy-duty truck, and it's pretty durable. But it doesn't stand a chance compared to a rocket. So we're going to just put it way over here, which looks far away, but rockets fly through the air so fast it feels really close. So we're going to go to the plane, and you might have noticed there's a scroll bar right here that tells you all these other controls that aren't related to actually flying the aircraft, but more of blowing things up for the most part. Now, when you have the aircraft in the air, you'll hear a beeping sound when it's trying to lock on, and then it buzzes when it's actually locked on. I'll let you listen to what that sounds like right here. So right there, plane is locked on to the vehicle, which you can't even really see. So the fire, you're going to hit B, and then the rocket goes off into the distance, and before you know it, it gets here. Like, I put slow-mo on right as I got to the vehicle, and it's already here. And I want 100 times slow-mo for this because this is just chaos. Boom! It hits the truck so hard, the whole back end just vaporizes basically into shrapnel. This truck is not gonna drive. It's not even a question of does it have a chance to drive. It's not gonna drive at all. The engine won't even do anything. Just complete destruction to the vehicle. And we could probably even do that through a cinder block wall. Let's try that actually. So we reset the truck, and then we're gonna want to spawn up a concrete retaining wall, not the cinder block one, the concrete retaining wall, because it's much heavier. And we'll go to the truck and we'll teleport it just in front of the wall like so. Maybe back it up so it's basically butted up against the wall. Like that way the missile doesn't try to go around the wall or some nonsense like that. And it's already locked on, so let's go ahead and fire. And then we'll go over to the truck. You see the missile coming at it real fast and hard. 16 times slow-mo, 100 times slow-mo. It hit the wall and basically didn't care. It basically did not care that the wall was there. It did a ton of damage still to the truck. Might have even done more because of the way it inflicted the damage. And well, you've seen the truck look like that before, but let's see just how far these cinder blocks are gonna fly. We'll do 16 times slow-mo so you can really just track them. They are flying many feet into the air. Like, they're still going up in the air. Let's do a full speed so you can see how high they actually go. Yeah. They're flying around like they weigh nothing. And where'd the truck go in the process? Oh, it's flying along the ground at like 100 miles per hour as well. Everything's glitched out because of just how much damage the rocket does. Those things are deadly. Now, let's go ahead and clean up these vehicles because I no longer need them. I mean, if you can consider that a vehicle. And we'll spawn up another one of these planes. This time we're going to go with the KI-201, which is a Japanese copy of the Me262. And just like every other variant, this is based on a real aircraft. So we're going to just get in the air a little bit cheaply. We're going to teleport it up here, respawn it so it's not on fire. Full throttle and pull up. We'll tell this guy to reset. Full throttle. How's this one doing? Is he pulling up enough to make it? Yeah, just barely. All right. So we'll set the trim to about 10% so it doesn't hit the ground accidentally. How's this guy doing? He actually has a lock onto that plane already. I mean, this lock on is crazy good. It's locking on. Doesn't even matter. He's barely in my view. So we'll get it up to the air. See how's this guy doing. He is really moving, surprisingly. So we'll try to make sure he goes over that fence. And I am slowly gaining on them. They're actually almost out of target range for the missile. So you know what we're going to do? We're just going to fire the missile. And then we'll see if it's coming at me. All right, we see it. And it's going to hit really fast. You never want to underestimate the speed of a missile. Yeah, we're going 200 miles per hour, but it's going way more than that. So boom, there is the missile here. 100 times slow-mo. Just hit the plane. And it shreds the plane. It shreds it. Interestingly, the cockpit is kind of okay. Like, you could maybe... Nope, never mind. The cockpit's getting shredded too. Alright, 16 times slow-mo. Maybe the cockpit would be okay where you could like kind of parachute out of it. I don't know. But it tracked me down no problem, even though I was way far away. It said there he is, and fire. And destruction. And in the process of watching that, I ended up crashing this one. Somehow the missiles are still trying to lock on. I don't know how that works. We'll go ahead and try this again. So get this one up to speed. And then we'll reset this one and get him up to speed as well. See, this one gets a huge speed advantage because it has the speed of gravity right there. You see that? That drop right there puts it up to 150 miles per hour already. That's why it's so fast. 200 miles per hour right there, and it's just now kind of leveling out. So again, trim to about 10%. And we can actually shoot it just from the ground. I don't even care. Just boop. And try to do like an evasive maneuver or something. Nope. Missile don't care. Missile don't care. Missile gonna hit you. Now, what if you actually don't want to get hit by a missile? Well, I got good news for you. There is a way to not get hit by the missile. Let's reset the one-wing fireball and this one. And we're going to swap this out for a plane that has countermeasures installed. Now, I know the A62 Swift has it, so we'll just go with that one. So make sure we get it up in the air as high as possible. Make sure it's as level as possible, and then full throttle and pull up, and let's see if it'll make it or not. Come on. I know it's locking onto the other plane. I don't care. I just want to make sure I don't crash. All right, that looks good. Good. Cool. Now I'm going to let it go ahead and straighten out for a bit, get up to speed, and then we're going to do a kind of pulling up, dodging maneuver type thing. You're gonna shoot this missile, and then you'll hear beeping. Use the countermeasures with X, and then boom, the countermeasures save you from the missile. They're still locked on, so they shoot another one. Countermeasures on cooldown. You're screwed. You hear the beeping. Death is imminent. That's so sad to know. Like, you can't do anything but die because those lock-ons are so strong. You can't avoid it. Anyways, let me show you what the countermeasures look like from the front. There's really not much to look at, but I feel like I gotta at least show it to you. Go ahead and pull up. There we go. Get a little bit of distance right here, so I have time to react. Okay. So, fire. Go to this one. Spin it around. Wait, was it locked on or did it run out of missiles? Huh. It's not. There we go. It's locking on now. So, fire. And then you hear the beeping. Let's see. Can we see the missile yet? Not quite. I'm going to do a little bit of slow-mo until I see it. There it is. So countermeasures are go for 5 seconds, then it has a 30-second cooldown. So you see there, it hits the countermeasure. That time, a little bit too close to the plane because I activated it too late. So we just lost some parts right there. Let's see if we can actually take this thing to the ground or not. This should be interesting. So we have rudder and ailerons. That's it. Now, there's no way I could get to the ground because we have no way to control verticals. The elevators are done. There's nothing I can do for that. Well, I could, technically, I guess, tilt it and then use the rudder to try to... Like, this is some lunatic-style kind of control right here. So you tilt the plane to the side, then use the rudder to get yourself going up into the air. And if you actually need to do a rotation, we're going to go invert... Oh, no! I thought I would have a chance at that, but the damaged plane couldn't take the G's. And it just exploded into parts everywhere. That was awesome! But unexpected, but so awesome. So you've now seen the easy way to hit a target. How about we go over the hard way? To do that, we're going to need a different plane though. We're going to get this one, which is like a prototype with a weaker and less reliable engine, but it also has a different weapon system. So once this thing spawns up, we're going to get it in the air. Now actually, every version of the plane does have a gun that you can use just by hitting spacebar, but this one also has something else. So let me show you what the gun looks like once we're kind of leveled out. There we go. So if you hit spacebar, it shoots a gun like that. You have a little bit over 300 rounds, but each shot uses 4 rounds. So just that little thing I showed you right there uses about 70 of the total rounds you get. And this one also has some rockets when you hit V, but these ones aren't homing like the other ones. So they obey the laws of gravity and stuff, and they'll eventually just fall to the ground and blow up one after the other. Now what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to hit the plane that's just sitting there on the runway, which is probably going to be hard, because it's such a small target, but I'm going to do my best I can to possibly do it. And if you hit Y, you get a little bit of help, because it gives you a crosshair that makes it easier to aim. So I know what I want to hit is somewhere at the start of the runway. We're going to try to slow down a bunch, though, to actually be able to see it, maybe. Alright, get rid of the landing flaps for slowing down, and just start firing on the general direction of the target. Want to go down a little bit more? Alright, I definitely hit it. So let's just let this plane do whatever it wants, and we'll take a look. Did not do that much damage. Actually, well, it destroyed all the wheels on the plane. But it didn't actually damage the plane itself, because I guess the explosion hit under it instead of actually hitting the plane. But I'll consider that a decent success, but I'm pretty sure we can do better. So we're going to try to get it into the air. I could probably shoot it from up above, but then how would I pull up in time? I don't know if I could. Like, you got to pull up, and you don't have much time to do it. So we'll go ahead and get some distance between us. And then we'll wait for a second, and we'll do a quick 180 right about here at the end of the runway. That way I have time to line up a shot, hopefully. Use the flaps a bit to slow down. Okay, we're slowed down. We'll just take throttle off manually now. Bring it down to about 50%. And we start firing. So that was a little bit of a suicide run to actually hit them anyways, but I know I hit them. Because I noticed I wasn't hitting them, and then the last minute I'm like, we're going in. And ha! I actually took off the rear of their plane, and I know that wasn't from me flying into them, because I was really careful just to go on the edge of them. There's no way, probably, that I hit them. Like, I'm pretty sure that's what the rockets do when they hit things anyway, so that's why I'm pretty certain that it was the rockets and not just the plane-to-plane impact. How is this plane doing? Well, the whole fuselage actually held up, which is impressive. We could try to do that as the cheetah one, really, where we just say, okay, we're here, and we're going to try. Yeah, that actually works pretty good to try to line it up. Alright, reset it before it crashes, and there you go. Yeah, pretty much the same breakages, so I think that was a hit earlier at the expense of a plane. Also, how about we try crashing a plane into another plane? I think if we don't move this much at all, the other plane's going to come and dive right onto it. So, getting pretty good angles, it looks like. Slowing it down to about 8 times slow-mo. What's the best angle possible? Best angle possible means we don't have that in the way. And that looks good. Ooh, that was nice. Like just the right amount of slow-mo to really get an idea of just how hard the impact was without making it where you see everything in super slow-mo. That was pretty cool. And now you just got parts going everywhere in the explosive wreck. Alright, so we'll get these planes back in the air. Now there are some other camera angles as well, which I haven't really touched on yet, so why don't we do that? So we have this one on the inside, and that crosshair is actually a normal one, so we can remove the other one, and then you have that one, which seems a lot more fair to me. The other one's all fake and cheaty. This is like a real crosshair the actual plane would have. And we also have a camera that is just following it, like every other vehicle. We have a gun cam, which I guess just is like lined up perfectly with where the gun's gonna shoot. Yep, looks like it. And then we also have the relative camera, which is nothing new, although it looks kind of cool on the plane because you could really see the way the wings flex. Like when you tell the plane to pull the ailerons whatever direction or the elevators in whatever direction, it flexes those wings. That is cool to watch. I mean, the amount of force that's going through those wings must be absurd whenever you try to do something like that. So anyways, we'll go ahead and go back to the regular camera and, well, we'll just dive this thing once, do a little bit of a twirl in the process. We're actually going super fast here. We're going 400 miles per hour from that initial start, so this is going to be a real harsh crash. Yep, just parts flying everywhere. Somehow the front wheel is still attached. Landing gear in! Landing gear in! It's actually trying to go in. I don't think it could, though, because it was too damaged. And Cockpit is not glitched out, but it's had such hard impacts, there's no way you'd be able to live through that. Now, as I was going through all the camera angles, you probably saw that there are quite a few gauges in this thing. Unfortunately, it's kind of hard to know what some of them do because they're not really clearly labeled. So let me get this thing leveled out, and then I'll go through the ones I can identify. We'll set the trim to about 10%. That'll keep us off the ground, I think. Anyways, so now that we're flying through the air, we'll take a closer look at these things. So some of them are more obvious, like the one right here. That one's pretty obviously a turn indicator because they look so unique. And then the one below it is a heading indicator, which doesn't appear to actually do anything. I don't know if it's based on the map or if it's just non-functional. And then this one up here is most likely a speedometer because it looks like it says like kilometers an hour. This one is rated climb, so we're going basically straight up in the air at the moment. That's why it's going like that. But if we start to go down, you see, well, there, now it's rated descent. And then this one over here, I'm not quite sure. Like, maybe it's the height you are from the ground, actually, now that I'm looking at it. That's probably what it is. It's an altimeter. It just doesn't look like what I usually think of when I think of an altimeter. Because usually when I think of altimeter, I think they have multiple arrows and stuff. And that one's just a single gauge, so it throws me off a little bit. But yeah, we're going straight up in the air, and it keeps going up. So it has to be an altimeter, I would guess. And then over here we have, I think, a bunch of dummy gauges that don't actually do anything. But these two look like they work. Absolutely no clue what they mean. I have yet to see them move, but they look like they have actual needles that could move. So strange. Anyways, we also have, if you look down here, a joystick that moves with your movements. And then if you look to the left, you see when you increase and decrease throttle, you have a thing that moves and has like a nice gear to look at as you do it. Like, look at that gear go. Ooh, that looks good. And we're close to the ground or really high up in the air. I don't know which. We're really high up in the air. Because it's funny, I'm looking at the altimeter and it's rolled over. So it's like, wait a minute, we're actually not close to the ground at all. That's why I like the ones with multiple arrows. I guess there's also a clock in here as well. Let's see, is that a clock? Is it accurate? Yes and no. That is not an accurate clock based on my computer. So that's covers all the stuff on the inside. I think I don't got anything else to do about here. So let's go ahead and dive. And see if we can get anything to happen with these gauges on the right side that look like they can move, but I have yet to actually see move. I don't know. I thought maybe there would like be the amount of force on a wing or something when you're really pulling up on them, but it doesn't seem like it does anything. Like you would think you would see something from these motions I'm doing here. And now they've been destroyed, so who knows? I surely don't. They are pretty much unlabeled, actually, if you actually take a close look at them. Like, they say, you a minute times 1,000. I don't know. Anyways, though, there is one more version of the plane we have yet to take a look at, and that one is the S92. I'll spawn it up so you can see what it looks like, but we're not going to do any flying with it. This one is a interesting one. Oh, plane just exploded in front of me. This one's like a Czechoslovakia version of the Me262. And again, based on a real aircraft that was actually used by them. And you can get the full history on this plane if you're interested by just Googling Me262 pretty much, and there's lots of resources you could find. I mostly just relied on Wikipedia because nobody can edit that without having good knowledge of whatever the topic is. Sarcasm. Anyways, that'll do it for this video. Till next time, it's WhyBeAre. I'll see ya. And for a second, hold on, what is that that's bouncing right there? I can't tell. Oh, maybe it's a wheel on a landing gear? Ha! That's funny looking. Alright, WhyBeAre, as I said, I'll see it.